The time has come for warm breakfast. It's still warm outside, but it is cooling down and I'm in the fall mood. I made a protein oatmeal and I'm gonna see what this tastes like. It feels salty, but it's not bad. Actually, that's quite nice. It's the Quaker protein and fiber. It doesn't have as much protein as Kodiak, but it doesn't have as much of a terrible protein aftertaste either, so that's a plus. I would buy this again. It's actually really nice. Maybe it's salty to cover the protein taste. I don't know. I give this a 3 out of 5. I wish I had some nuts, and I could have been less lazy and popped it in there, but it is banana. It would be nice if it was banana nut. It would increase the fiber. I had almonds in the pantry, but I don't really like almonds in oatmeal. I like walnuts or pecans, stuff like that. But no complaints. I will not complain about it. It's much better than when I tried to do the cream of rice and protein experiment. That was not the worst, but my ratios were off. So I haven't vlogged in a while, and I told myself I will at least put together a writing and editing vlog today. I started with a few clips recently, but it's just been hard to like focus and remember to do stuff. I have been sticking to not really going out much in order to not spend money. So what ends up happening is just I'm at home. And while I do appreciate a cozy vlog, I don't know how exciting I am when all I'm doing is writing in my bedroom. So I will do a little bit of that today. Have to clean up the house a little bit and make dinner tonight because I agreed to make dinner for at least one day on every weekend, just to kind of mix things up and again keep us from shopping. I am terrible about breakfast because of all the things I can't eat dairy wise, and I can't have too many eggs because it upsets my stomach. I struggle with finding like a protein rich breakfast that is not just protein powder or protein shake. And so I'm trying to find alternatives, even if it's just a little protein. This is definitely not like a 30 gram of protein a day kind of a deal, but every little bit counts. So my goal the last few months has been to try to get to at least 100 grams of protein a day. Even that has been always a challenge. It's that breakfast portion that always leaves me missing out on some grams, but I have been lifting more and I've been trying to make some gains in the muscle department, the body recomp department, and protein's a big part of that. And every time I look up recipes, I go on Pinterest or something, it's like, what are some protein rich breakfasts? It's all either eggs or dairy or overnight oats, which I'm so tired of overnight oats with protein powder in them. And then the vegan stuff just is usually like, here's some tofu, which I also can't eat. So that's the challenge. It's a little difficult when your medication doesn't work if you take some stuff, and your body doesn't work if you take some stuff. Kitty cat prowling underneath. Hello. I also had a lot of migraines over the last 2 months, and that has also made it like not impossible to but like, what fun is it to see me lying in bed? So I've also not been the greatest about my supplements, which I'm sure contributed, but primarily it's been the weather. So I'm hoping to get that under control again. I'm always frustrated by this. I always wish I could just have like 2 or 3 and call it a day, but a lot of the supplements I take, they don't come in the amounts that I need for migraine therapy. So I have to buy them individually and then like stack them up throughout the day. Or if they do come in the amounts I need, they're so crazy expensive that I'm better off just buying the stacking variety. I just hope these attacks lessen with age. It did for at least my mom, and it did for my half-sister's mom. Both of them have said that like once they like passed their mid-40s, got to their early 50s, the migraines that they used to suffer from went away. So I'm really hoping that this is just perimenopause being a bitch and they go away. And I know I'll probably have migraines for the rest of my life, but even my mom, like, it's a rare attack at this point, not a daily. I remember her being in bed laid up a lot when I was a kid. So at some point that did stop. I don't know when exactly because I was too young, but it did stop. I remember that suddenly, like, she wasn't in bed every weekend. My mom was in her 30s when she had me. So the years I'm remembering would have been like her late 30s, early 40s when I was growing up. And then at some point her constant attacks, like I remember every weekend, like she'd get at least one attack, like it either faded or lessened or just completely stopped. And now if she tells me she's laid up in bed with a headache, it's usually like once a year. It's rare. I like to hold on to that hope. That's all I've got. Anyhow, I'm gonna finish this up, make the bed, settle down to try to do some editing. I see that there's a big flare, so I'll move the camera somewhere else. I am going to work on edits right now. I made a second cup of coffee because we're going to need it, and I'm going to work on the middle of the draft. It is in need of major changes. I don't even know which round of edits this is, but this is the goal of this edit, is to make it ready for a professional editor. So I have a list of editors I'd like to contact, and I want to make this as clean as possible, cut as much fluff as possible, because that does affect the overall cost of edits depending on the word count. So my goal is to cut about 5,000 to 10,000 words and get it down to about 89, 85-ish thousand words, which should be the good sweet spot for this novel. Since it's contemporary romance, that's like a good range for self-pub, indie, contemporary romance. And I'm always kind of hard on myself because I feel like I'm a very slow editor and I want to speed up this process, but I also know that if you don't edit with care, you're not doing the greatest
job you could be doing. So I'm trying not to beat myself up about it. My goal is to be through these edits by November, mid-November-ish. It is now mid-September, and I think that's a doable goal. It's on pace with my usual standard. I'm hoping that over time my process gets more streamlined. I've learned a lot over the years, and I think it has become a more manageable process, but I'm always looking for ways to streamline it more, to make my process just a little bit more efficient. And that's what I'm doing today. So I have about 20 pages for this chapter that needs edits. What I've been doing is reading the chapter during the week, marking off what I need to edit, and then I'll actually apply the edits on the weekend. There's one chapter where I just kind of told myself, look, this just needs to be almost entirely rewritten, so I didn't take too many notes on it, and I know it's going to be a big project, so that's probably going to be tomorrow. Today's is more of a follow the notes and keep track of what I'm sort of like pointing out in the written file, but it's still probably going to take about 4 or 5 hours of work to get through these 20 pages, and I'm going to need all the energy I can get. For an hour and a half according to my tracker, and I've done about half of the chapter that I set out to edit today. It is coming along. I've streamlined a few of the scenes that I felt like were just like added fluff. I cut some stuff, and right now I have 93,740 words. This chapter, when I first started editing, not the chapter, the entire draft, I mean, had just under 95,000 at some point. This novel was about 97,000 words, so it has come down significantly since I was originally querying this. And like I said, my goal is to get this down to like maybe a solid 89 to 90-ish, and yeah, I think it'll get there, because I do have just other bits that I know are just superfluous, so I am cutting those. This novel was originally somewhere in the, like, because I tend to be a short writer when I write first drafts, I think it was originally about 79,000 words, and then it grew through betas and reading and expanding details and the world behind it, characterization, etc. But there's always like fluff that ends up being in there that then I'm like, I don't really need this. And especially with having to pay for an editor, word count is a significant factor in the cost of an edit. So I do not need superfluous scenes that don't really lead the story anywhere. Also, when I originally wrote this novel, I was writing it as a standalone with a hope of a series, but this was being written for TradPub. I wrote it originally to query and try to get an agent, since deciding that I was going to go indie with this and just try it on my own and see what happens. The indie market and what I feel is like the expectation for romance in indie is a little bit different, and so I have now decided, you know, that some of that excess that really like developed characters in this one, well, those characters are now, they have their own stories, they have their own novels, so I don't need to give all the details of their background in this one to like flesh them out. That will come later. So it's a different process. I feel like this poor novel has gone through so many rounds of changes just based on you know, from what it started, and then the editing process overall. And as I said, like, because I was writing towards one market as opposed to a different market, I feel like from the very original draft to now, it has definitely toned down in terms of steaminess or spiciness or whatever you want to call it. It was much spicier in my like rough draft, because that's when I just like let the ideas flow. But the trad market, I find, even though people will, you know, like attach a spicy steaminess level to things, I still feel like the trad market is a lot more tame than the indie market. And since I was writing to trad, it kind of got muted over time. And now that I'm writing to indie, I am adding some of that back, but not too much, because at this point I don't want to mess with the actual plot too much. So trying to strike a balance there, but that's where I am right now. I'm on chapter 11 of 28 plus epilogue, so 29 chapters in this book. It has taken me about, I started this round of edits around mid-August. I had a week of migraine where I didn't write, and so as I said, I've been like, I'll read like 50 pages and then I will edit those 50 pages over the weekend. So that's what I've been doing during the week. I read, I do sprints where I read it and I take notes and decide what I'm cutting, what I'm changing, what I'm revising for language or text or whatever. And then on the weekend, I am trying to just like hyper focus on actual edits, because that's just working out better for me with my schedule and my writing process, and just keeping my brain active and connected and not distracted because I've had a long day at work, or I'm, you know, like stressing out about something else. So it keeps me on task in this way, and this is working so far. But it has taken in actual editing up to now 3 weekends. In, you know, when you break it down by days, the whole process obviously is longer, but 3 weeks, 3 weekends to get up to chapter 11. I'm really hoping that this, like I said, only goes on until mid-November. My initial goal is mid-November, and my best goal is mid-November. My okay goal is starting off December, and then my worst case scenario is, well, I would like this to be done by December, but I don't think it will take that long. But that all depends on how messy or not messy the later chapters are. The middle is always the hardest, and I am smack in the middle, and everybody always complains about the saggy middle, and yeah, like, it's in there. It gotta deal with it, gotta take care of it. That's just the nature of deciding to go indie, is unless you pay for help, you're on your own, and for now I've got to do this part of my own, and that's just the process. So I'm going to go back, see how long it takes me to get through the rest of this, and maybe break for lunch at some point in between. Pink, what are you doing? The time has come for my break. I'm making tuna and mini naan, keeping it simple. Tuna salad, mini naan, Oreo Coke, because I am that kind of a trash girly. I do love a Coke Zero though.
It reminds me of Coke vanilla. Like, that's really what it is. It's just Coke vanilla. It feels like slightly more vanilla-y, but that's really what it tastes like. I mixed in some tuna mayo, a bit of mustard because I wanted it to be tart, lime, pepper. Yeah, that's everything. This is simple, nothing fancy, nothing complex. I just need something to get me through the next hour and a half, 2 hours, so I can finish what I'm working on and just keep me going. I will be fancy for dinner.
I made myself a cup of tea and I am going to start again. It is 1 o'clock now. I think I started writing at 10. When did I start writing? 10:31. So I stopped at 12:34. So I took about half an hour as a break. Had lunch, which you saw was tuna salad with some mini naan, and then I had a coconut. What is it? It's like a mousse. It's like a coconut chocolate mousse thing. I had about half of it because it's usually too rich for me to eat the whole thing. They're usually very sweet. So I made some peach tea, decaf. It's not caffeinated, herbal, I guess you would say. And yeah, I'm going to continue on with this chapter. I have, I think, 9 pages to go. Some of this might be cut, and we'll see how long it ends up being, but as of right now, there's like 9 pages for me to go through, and then this will be it for the day because I do want to also get to other things in my life that I need doing, like the dishes. So I need to be better about getting the work done, but also structuring my day in such a way where I'm not just writing because there's nobody else to do the dishes, and it's gross if I don't. So that's the challenge of living alone. You have to take care of yourself, and even if you have other goals, this stuff still has to get done. That's the plan for today. So let's get to that was 52 minutes worth of editing. I reached the end of the chapter. I think I said at the beginning of the vlog that I was around 94,000 words. I think that's where I was when we started. I am at 93,358 now, so I definitely made some cuts, but maybe I'm misremembering where I started. I should have noted it. Either way, a good 1,000-ish words under, a little bit more than 1,000, like 1,500 maybe, under where I started at the very beginning of this edit, so that's a good thing. I think, like I've said, with every edit, this does get stronger, and that is my goal overall. Tomorrow, I have a significant amount of editing to do. So tomorrow I have pages 170 through 199. So that would bring me just under 200. Although right now, the draft is about 5 pages shorter than it was. So what would have been page 169 is now page 164, so 5 pages-ish shorter than it used to be. And that's fine. That is what we want. We want it to get more concise, more streamlined, and keep the action going, and cut out anything that might distract the reader. I don't know how long it'll take me to do tomorrow's piece, because this chapter actually might need to be cut in two. I suspect that is one of the problems with it. This previous chapter I ended up cutting in two. One of the things that I'm doing is that this is a dual point of view book. When I first wrote the very first draft, I wrote it all from one point of view, and then I realized it just did not read well without the second point of view. So I added the male character's point of view. And that was a complete rewrite that I did back in 2019. That's where this novel originally started. So I took the first draft and then I just completely rewrote the thing to include a new point of view as part of the whole story. And so when I did that, I kind of like integrated it, because I didn't feel like the second point of view had like it's not a strictly one character like you see with some books. Like I don't feel like it needs that level of extra chapter, because then it would go back into that territory of like fluff. It's not essential to the story to like follow this other character around every day of his life. So I only really have him around if he's doing something significant. If he's not in the female main character's point of view, like, you know, it has to be a response to whatever happens between them. So it's not always a 1-to-1 ratio of one character versus the other, but I had it kind of like integrated in the chapters with just like a switch in point of view. And I thought, well, maybe if I put in like different headers or dividers for his scenes. But now I'm thinking I'm just going to split his scenes out into individual chapters, even if they are a little bit shorter than her point of view. So the last chapter that I worked on is when I made that decision. So I need to go back into some of the earlier chapters where I also have his POV and just split those out. So this is actually going to go beyond 28 chapters, even though it won't be longer in terms of content. But I do need to then separate those and maybe like flesh out beginnings and endings to make it make sense if necessary. But I do think that one of the things that was that I'm struggling with this middle section is that some of the chapters just feel too long. Like they're all interconnected, but some of the scenes maybe just needs to be the break in the chapter. Like that's where the action can break and go into the next chapter. And I believe that is going to be one of the challenges coming tomorrow when I start editing chapter 12. I do think chapter 12 is too long. It is too long. It's like 20 pages long. So it's going to need to be cut somewhere, whether it's in the middle or later in the scene and it flows into the next chapter. I don't know. I haven't gotten to the next chapter yet in terms of like where that connects. But if I can't finish chapter 12 tomorrow, what I've been doing is if I need to continue editing into the week, then I'll use my morning time to read the next set of chapters for review, and then the evenings to do editing sprints. And that's been working so far. And so that is today. My goal had been to write from 10 to 2. I started a little bit later, a little bit past 10 by a few minutes, just because I did some stuff in the morning. So I started at 10:30. So 10:30 to 2 with a 30-minute break in between. Not bad. Now I will do those dishes, as I said. I got a little too ambitious and I decided to use the oven instead of my alternative, which was to use the air fryer. And since I was already turning on the oven, I baked some little muffins that I had a little bag for. They're not like from scratch or anything, it's just one of these guys. I think I bought it impulsively to do something that I saw on Instagram, but then I was like, I don't remember what that was. Let's use them. The oven has not been turned on at least since 2020 because, as I usually complain, it gets too hot in here. I have all the fans and the filters blasting, as well as the air conditioner, and the windows are open because, having not turned it on in 3 to 4 years, it definitely smelled when I turned it on. So I'm sure it like burned off a layer of dust or something. But dinner is now in the oven, which is not a thing I say very often. And we have little muffins to eat for breakfast tomorrow. So here you can see, do not mind the dirty oven door. As I said, this thing is storage normally. It's a chickpea tomato pasta thing, and it's a nice looking vegan recipe. I'm hoping it tastes nice. One of the things with the recipe though is that it did include fresh garlic and onions, and I can not eat either of those things. So I'm hoping that it's still just as flavorful. I added a couple more ingredients to try to bring out the flavor. I think the tomatoes will definitely bring out the flavor. And the recipe writer said to maybe add some honey if it wasn't like peak tomato season. I don't think this is peak tomato season, so I did drizzle on a little bit of honey on top of the tomatoes. It looks nice. It smelled nice. It looks like one of those, like the cheese bakes minus the cheese. So I hope it tastes nice. I'll make the angel hair pasta to go with it later. And I think the boy says he wants to bring sourdough. He keeps insisting on having bread if we have pasta. So I don't know. We'll see. In the meantime, I'm going to work on this mess I got myself into. I signed up to write like encouraging postcards for voters in swing states, and I need to do about 150 more of them. It's, no, 75 more. I have done 125. I have 75 more to go out of 200. I did not realize at the time when I signed up for these that I would have to pay for postage, which is fine. I added it to my budget. However, the postage has not arrived because, ironically, the post office has lost the stamps. Or at least they are stuck somewhere. According to the claim I filed, because it was at least insured, being almost $100 worth of postage, I got an update that they're somewhere in Miami. They're at one of the facilities, and they have identified a backup at the facility. So that tells me nothing, but I need to send these out by October 24th. So I'm really crossing my fingers, hoping that these stamps arrive sooner rather than later, at least before October 24th, so that I can stamp the cards and send them on their way. So I'm going to, with hope in my heart, continue writing these cards and hope that I can actually mail them out on time. And that is what I will do now. Now, I'm not going to show you guys because I am writing people's addresses on this, so I'm just going to settle myself in and start writing and keep myself busy until the pasta has to be made and the dinner can be finished. And because my oven is basically storage, I have set up the coffee table to be where we eat dinner tonight. So I will be using that now to write these guys out and using it for dinner when we actually sit down to have our meal. Hello, Big. Chickpea tomato dish. I added some vegan cheese on top to add some extra flavor to it, and I'm boiling the water for the angel hair. I wish I could say it's the same night, but it's not. It is actually the day after, and I am calling it quits with still another like 10 pages to go on the edit. I tried my hardest to get through it all,
but I hit a wall this morning. I really needed a lot of rest this morning. I just wasn't, I wasn't feeling very energetic. I kind of just, I guess that maybe I stayed up too late. Maybe I did too much the day before. I don't know. But I ended up completely like bed rotting all morning because I had zero energy. I came back to life around noon, ended up getting about 3 hours of editing done, and then took a little time to work on like my HB90 planner stuff. And apologies for the shakiness, I'm holding it in my hand because I'm too lazy to look for the tripod right now. But yeah, so I'm calling it quits on Sunday night. I'm going to rest. I'm going to read. I'm going to replenish my energy for tomorrow. And I am probably going to stay home because I just got a text from my landlady that is very sus. And I think it'll be easier to deal with whatever nonsense they are plotting if I'm home than if I'm at work, which is an hour away, and then have to like throw myself on the highway to get here to deal with anything so that they don't freak out the cats. So maybe I'll get to catch up on everything tomorrow, but that's the plan regardless. If I go to work or not, I will focus on wrapping up the next 10 pages. It was a much bigger edit than I wanted. I won't say anticipated, because once I was reading it, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a rewrite. But the second half of the chapter should go a bit faster. It's not a section that I feel like I need to do as much change-wise, but I say this now, and I might prove myself wrong. So I will do that tomorrow. Keep going, and then read the next 50 pages. I counted it out, and if I can stick to my current routine and maintain the same level of progress consistently, which is a big if, I should be able to wrap this up in about 6 weeks, maybe 7, give or take, if I have like a bad week. I usually can maintain progress unless I get thrown for a loop health-wise. If I get a really bad migraine, or like a week-long attack, or like a really bad period, let's be honest, that affects both my energy levels and my ability to keep going. So I'm gonna hope for the best, plan for the worst. So let's say 7 weeks, maybe, if I lose a week here or there. And I'm also just hoping that some of the later chapters don't need as much as the middle. The middle is always, sorry, frog in my throat. The middle's always a little messier because it's always kind of like where so much has to happen to move the story forward. And even though I thought I had edited this as best as I could, obviously there's more that I could still do. And the goal is to make it as good as possible so a reader might enjoy this thing. So that's the plan. Keep going, keep pushing along, and just try to do something. I can't start unless I start somewhere, and this is where I have to start. So I will check in with you guys later, maybe next weekend when I'm working on this again. I am hoping to edit this video soon and put it up, so maybe by the time you see this, it is still relevant and close enough. But till then, take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.